Okay, boys and girls, now for our next lesson in science. Bit of a tricky one to teach from afar, but I'll do as best I can using the smartboard and also showing you some videos on YouTube. So our goal is to understand that we measure electricity that comes to our homes in something called kilowatt hours. And also, if we go to the bottom of the page here, is to understand how you read your household electrical meter and the efficiency labels on electrical appliances. So three goals that we'll try and touch on in this lesson, okay? First of all, here is my electrical bill from a few years ago. And I want to point out a few things to you because all you can see is numbers. But this is my electrical bill from October 2001. And here's the reading. Oh, sorry, that's not October 2001. This is October the 1st. That's when it was started. And here's my electrical reading on my electricity meter. And then it goes up until October 30th when it was reading this much. So this reading here is a reading of how many kWh I've used. That stands for kilowatt hours. And that's how they measure the power that we use in our home. And so I used 613 kilowatt hours. So what's happened is on the 1st of October, my meter, my electricity meter outside my house had a reading of 2705 kilowatt hours. And then on the 30th of October, it read 3,318 kilowatt hours. And to figure out how many kilowatt hours I had used, how much power I'd used in my house, they had to subtract the old reading from the new one. So 8 take away 5 is 3. 1 take away 0 is 1. 3 take away 7 you can't do. Bottom's bigger, better borrow back. 13 take away 7 is 6. So I used 613 kilowatt hours. There it is down here. Then I'm charged down here. My energy charge for my 613 kilowatt hours is 8 cents for every kilowatt hour. So it meant that I had to pay $49.04 for a month of electricity. Now, there were also other charges I had to pay down here. Those are the charges I have to pay to get the power to my house. So it's the company that runs the power lines I was paying for. But we don't want to talk about that right now. What we want to talk about is, okay, how is energy in our home measured? So energy, that's another bill from another power company. So let's just look at this page here. I'm just going to read it to you. Measuring electrical usage. How is the electricity in your home measured? Most electrical devices have a plate or stamp that indicates the wattage the device requires. Wattage is the number of watts of electricity the device needs to work properly. The watt is the unit used to measure electrical power in much the same way as the kilometer and meter are used to measure distance, or the hour and minute are used to measure time. The symbol used to represent the watt is an uppercase W. So, list the name and wattage of 10 household electrical devices in columns A and B. So what we normally do here is we have a list of devices. I think I've got it on another page. So here we have the page here. So a television uses about 200 watts. A clock radio uses 5 watts. An electrical stove on top here uses 12,200 watts. An iron for clothes uses 1,100 watts. A vacuum uses 200 watts. A coffee grinder, 120. An electric shaving razor, 14. A blender, 390 watts. A dishwasher, 1200 watts. An electrical blanket is 180 watts. A microwave oven is 1300 watts. And a clothes dryer is 4500 watts. You'll notice that devices that create heat need more electricity. And that devices that do not create heat need less power. But our stove, that uses a lot of power. Our dishwasher, which has a heater in the bottom of it, that uses a lot of power. A clothes iron, that uses a lot of power. The clothes dryer uses a lot of power. Okay. Now, to calculate watts into kilowatt hours, we've got to do a wee bit of math here. Okay, we've got to do a wee bit of math. So a television, if it takes 200 watts, to find out how many kilowatts that is, we are going to not add 1,000, that's supposed to say divide by 1,000. So 200 divide by 1,000 will give me how many kilowatts it is, and that is 0.2 kilowatts. So we divide by 1,000 to find out how many watts are in a kilowatt. To find out how many kilowatt hours it is, you then have to multiply your kilowatts, this number here, by the number of hours that you use the device. So if I've got a television that I've used for 7 hours, it's 0.2 times 7, which is going to be 1.4 kilowatt hours. Let me clean this up. Let's look at another device. I'll change my pen so it's a wee bitty narrower. Let me see. A wee bitty narrower. All right. So if I've got a clock radio that's only 5 watts, I have to divide it by 1,000 to tell me how many kilowatts it is. That's 0.005. Hang on, let me just check here. 0.005 kilowatts. I could use a calculator to do that. I could put in 5 divide by 1,000 equals, and that give me the answer. Now my clock radio, if I use it for 5 hours, I have to do 0.005 multiplied by 5 hours of use will give me 0.025 kilowatt hours. Okay, so you take the number of watts, divide it by 1,000 to give you kilowatts, then multiply that by the number of hours it's used to give you kilowatt hours. Okay, so what I'm going to do is you're going to be assigned to calculate these items on the Google Doc and tell me how many kilowatt hours they take to use. Okay, so you're going to do this part in the Google Doc. So you can pause the video and do it now, or you can continue watching this video and then do that afterwards. But let's move on to the next part. So that's the same activity. Different appliances use different amounts of power, and that power in your home is measured using your electrical meter. This is your electrical meter, and you are going to have to read it. You're going to have to see how many kilowatt hours your house is using. So I'm going to try and see if I can show you my electrical meter and do a reading with it and show you how to do a reading. But for just now, you need to go outside and find this on your house. Every house has them, because we all use electricity. The numbers will flash up in here, and you want to look at the numbers that have a small kWh at the end. And that will help get us ready to do our next activity. So that again shows you what the meter looks like, and you can see the number here that is being shown, 4925. Let's say you read that meter and it showed you 4925 kilowatt hours. The next morning, if you come back and look at your meter, that number should go up because your house is using electricity. That number the next day might read 4950, okay, which shows that you've used 50 kilowatt hours of power. All right, that's what I want us to start doing, is starting to learn how to read our household electrical meter. So what I want to do is work on calculating those electrical devices, how many kilowatt hours they are, and then let me know if you're able to locate your electrical meter. And if you can locate your electrical meter, which you should be able to, I need you to write down this number. Very important that you write down that number, because I want you to keep track of how that number is getting bigger, how much power you're using. Okay? And then we'll be ready for our next lesson. Okay.